Well, hello everyone. This is Larry Wilkins with the ABA Engineering Academy, and we wanted to take a few minutes today to talk about the EAS test, the national test, which is coming up on Wednesday, August the 11th at 2:20 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Now, that will be like 1:20 in the Central Time Zone and 12:20 in the Mountain, and then out on the West Coast, it'll be at 11:20. Eastern or daylight time. So make sure you have that on your calendar. There are several things you need to do to get ready, and we'll talk just real briefly about it. You need to make sure that you are monitoring the correct sources on your EAS box, because this year they're actually going to be using the legacy EAS system instead of IPAWS. It will not be available on IPAWS, only on the legacy EAS network. Now, this is a system that the two monitor stations that you use on your EAS device, it will actually be originated from FEMA and will come into your state on the primary entry point station or stations if you have more than one in your state. And then that will be distributed from them through the state relay networks down through the LP1s and LP2s, which are the ones that you're supposed to be monitoring at your station. So make sure that you check the state plan and make sure that you're actually monitoring the correct sources for your area. Also, make sure that the audio quality of both of those sources are adequate, meaning that the levels are correct, not too hot or not too low, and also that it doesn't have any kind of distractions, hum or buzz or crosstalk. So you've got plenty of time because the test is not till August the 11th. So this will give you some time to make sure that you're getting a good quality signal from both your required monitor sources. So do that ahead of time, so everything will make sure that it is correct. Now, each station must register with the EAS test reporting system. This started back when FEMA first began to do the national test. They actually came up with a reporting system, which is primarily designed so that you can enter the information after the test is over, letting the commission know that, yes, I got the test and yes, I relayed it properly. There are actually three forms that's available that you must fill out or with the ETRS system. Form 1 is the one that we're going to talk about here in just a couple of minutes. Form 1 is due by July the 6th. And this is just a data sheet with information about your station. And I know we've done that every year. And the neat thing about it is most of all the information when you go onto the site will actually come up and be pre-populated. So you'll have it, you won't have to do a lot of type or anything like that. Some of the stuff you may have to type in, but for the most part, it's all already pre-populated, but it is due by July 6th. On the day of the test, which will be August the 11th, and there is a backup date, I believe, August 25th, in case there's anything else, bad storm or weather or any kind of any other type of alert going on that day, that can actually move from the 11th to the 25th. But normally it's actually scheduled for the 11th to begin with. So the day of the test, you will actually go back on the site and answer in form 2. There's actually 2 questions on there. One is, did you receive the test correctly? Yes or no. And did you relay the test properly? Yes or no? And that's really the only 2 questions on form 2. There is a form 3 that will be due by September the 27th, which you can actually file that ahead of time after the day of the test, if you wish. What form 3 deals with is where you will have to actually go into explanation if you did not receive it correctly, if you didn't get it at all, or you received it and it was noisy or the level was low or whatever kind of problem you have with it, or if you had problems relaying it. That's what form 3 is about, is so you can give some detailed information. So the first one is due July 6th, which is just a few weeks away. Form 2 is due the day of the test, August the 11th. And form 3 is due by September 27th, but you can actually file it right after you do 2, if you wish. Let's go in and talk about Form 1, because this is the one that most people have trouble with, to make sure that all the data is correct on Form 1. Now, before you actually log on to the FCC site, and we'll do this in just a second, but before you start, you need to write down and make you a list of some things that you'll need when you're looking at the site itself. The first, obviously, is the ETRS login information, the username and password. This is what you used the last time that you entered information on that site. Now, last year, we did not have a national test because of the pandemic. They postponed that. And so, but we have been doing it for several years. So you did have a username and password year before last. So hopefully you remember or have that written down somewhere where you can access it. So write that down so you'll have that before you actually go to the FCC site. The username and password that's associated with ETRS. Now, if you don't know what it is or you've lost it, you may have to get back with the ETRS people there at the FCC and get your password and login information reset. You'll also have to make sure you have your federal registration number for your station. That's the FRN number. That's the number that's used for everything that you do with the FCC. When you're paying your license fee or filing any kind of information, you have to have that number, and you'll actually have to have that number when you log on to the FCC site to do the ETRS Form 1. So make sure you have that written down. Write down all the call letters of your station. If you're just doing 1 or 2 or 3, just make a list of all the call letters and the facility ID for each one of those stations. Each broadcast facility will have a facility ID, which will be separate for each one. Now, if you are only doing just a few stations, 1, 2, 3, or 4, or even 5 stations, it's easy enough to do because you have to do one for each station. If you're a corporation or a group owner and you have a whole bunch of stations that you're filing Form 1 for, you can do a batch file, and the instructions for, we won't really go into that batch file on this particular webinar, but you can actually, the information for doing that is actually on the website if you have a whole bunch of stations to enter. But it's just a simple matter. As a matter of fact, once you get all this pre-information in hand and you log on, it won't take you more than 5 minutes to go through it. So it's not really a big deal. Another thing that you may have to enter onto Form 1 is the make and model of your EAS equipment. It may be a Sage Indec or a DASDEC or a Trilithic or Gorman Redlick, whatever type of equipment that you have. You need to know the make and the model number of that EAS equipment, along with what the current firmware version that you're using in that device is. And it will actually give you drop-down boxes as you'll see as we go through, listing the different types of EAS and the different firmware that's available. But you need to write down what you have so that when you get there, you'll know exactly what to put. That'll just save you some time as you walk through the information in Form 1. It's also going to ask you to check and verify your monitor sources. Every station is supposed to be monitoring at least 2 sources, source number 1 and source number 2. Typically, these are the LP1s or the LP2s in your operational area. If you are not sure that you're monitoring the correct sources, or you're not sure which sources you're supposed to be monitoring, then you can contact your state emergency communications committee or the State Broadcasters Association in your state and find out. And it will actually be listed in the state plan. So if you can access that, it will tell you who you're supposed to be monitoring, because you actually have to enter the call letters of those stations in Form 1. So let's go over and take a look at Form 1. And simply the way that you do it is actually log on to the FCC site. It's actually fcc.gov. And here we brought it up on the screen for you, fcc.gov. If you'll notice, there's a blue bar, and each time you hover over a heading, you notice there's a drop-down menu that comes up for each one of them. If you hover over licensing and databases, you can scroll down and you'll see a whole bunch of things that you can enter. Well, on the third row over, here's ETRS. So you simply just click on ETRS, and that will take you to the ETRS reporting system page. Make sure that this first section is highlighted, which it normally defaults and comes up to that. There's an instructional video if you'd like to watch it, and some handbooks, EAS operating handbook. But the one we want to go in to actually look at Form 1 is under EAS test reporting system. Scroll down on that page till you get down to the login section, ETRS login. And you have a login section. You have a new user registration. Of course, you should have done that several years ago. But if you didn't, this will give you a place where you can go and actually register. And there's a place to reset your password if you forgot what that was, and the profile update as well. But if you have logged in the past and you have all the information, go to the login link and click on it. And then it will actually bring you to the login page. And it should go to the login page. Here it goes. And here it will give you the actual login where you sign into the site. Now, we're actually going to do one live today. And we'll let you know that the owner of the station, the manager of the station, gave us the okay to use his, because there is no sensitive information in this particular Form 1. Your FRN and facility ID are public knowledge. It's actually available on the web, so there's no problem with that. So let's go now and log on. This is the station that we're actually going to do. You enter in your username and your password that you had written down earlier for ETRS, and click on sign in. And then this will bring you up to the actual Form 1 where you will start entering the information. Here's Form 1, here's Form 2 or 3. And over here is if you're doing a bunch of stations as a group, that's where you would do the batch filing. We're going to do Form 1 today. So you simply click on Form 1. And this comes up with the beginning of the page, and you're doing Form 1, it says there. So let's scroll down, and there's some information if you wanted to read all that. The first thing that you want to click on is you have to select the test cycle that you're actually filing for. Now, obviously, there'll only be one, the 2021 nationwide EAS test. So you actually click on that, and that puts it in the box. And then we'll scroll down, and here's where you would actually enter the FCC registration number for your company. So you would click here, and let me go over here and get his particular FRN. I may already have it. Yes, here it is right here. It'll actually, if you've done it before, it will self-populate and you will see it come up. So this is the FRN number for this particular station. The next thing you want to click on, you just scroll down a little bit more. If you have any problems, actually give your phone number here that you can call. So you can an email or call them if you wish. The EAS participant type. Now, obviously, if you are a radio station, you would click radio broadcaster. If you're a television station, you would click on television broadcaster. If you're working for cable or wireless cable, it has all the others. So we're doing a radio station, so you will click on radio broadcaster for this one. Here is where you would actually enter the facility ID for the station that you're filling out Form 1 for. This particular station here has the facility ID. And let me see where the facility ID for this station is. Well, you know, I've already messed myself up because I didn't put the facility ID down on here. Now I can find it right quickly. Let's just do that. And I can show you how quickly that is. If you don't know what the facility ID is for your station, you can actually go over. Let's go to FCC info. You should have done this ahead of time, but I didn't do it. So, but this will show you how you actually can go look at it. Facility ID, and let's go in and type the call letters of the station. WMFC, and call sign search, and there it is right there. And here's his facility ID. So we'll just copy that and then go back over to this portal. So even if you make a mistake, you can actually go and cover it up. There it comes up, and the call sign, this is his facility ID. And then when you click on the call sign, it will go and search it, and there it is, WMFC. So it actually picked it up from this facility ID. Now, going forward, this is the neat thing about this site. Going forward, most of all of this information will be self-populated. It'll pull it from the file that you did last time, the city of license, the county of license, the state, and let's scroll on down, the name of the company, and then we get down into the emergency alert system. Now, this you will have to do yourself. This is why we said to make sure that you get the make and model and software version of your EAS, because it doesn't show it there. So you click on make and model. And if this particular station I know is running a Sage Index model 3644, that's the blue face one. But if you're using a DASDEC, or you can scroll down and see it has Trilithic, it has Gorman Redlick. So depending on what type of EAS equipment, that's what you would actually select. So this is a Sage Index model 3644. We'll click on that, and then you come down and it asks for the software version, and you click this button here. And I know that they're running the latest software, which is revision 95 CR Rev 5. That's a patch that needs to be in there. So you simply click on that and it will add it right here. See, it had the old one in there, and that's okay. You can leave that in there. But this is the one that you're running now. It's revision 5 with this patch CR5. Then it asks for your EAS designation. You may be an LP1 or LP2, and that will be listed in your state plan. But most stations will be will actually be a participating. Let's see here, right? Where did it go here? Here's a LP1 national primary petition. Here's what we want: participating national. Most stations will be this unless you are an LP1 or an LP2. So this station is, as a matter of fact, this station is an LP2. So I'm going to click LP2 for him. Then you continue to scroll down, and you don't have to mess with any of these up here because you've already filed all the stuff. And this gives the two monitoring points that this particular station has. The first EAS monitoring assignment is the Alabama Public Television Network. And the second one that he has is a radio station, WPPG. So you can leave that like it is. And yours will have the same thing. It'll have whatever the monitoring sources that you have are already self-populated. This question, are either of these sources monitored pursuant to a commission waiver? And that normally is no, because you haven't applied for the commission to get any kind of waiver. It does ask you if you're monitoring iPods, you can add that. And it asks you, you don't really have to put this up there. The last time I think somebody actually put that in there, and that's okay. But it does ask you, does the equipment monitor FEMA iPods? And you click on yes, so you want to make sure that that's correct. Primary language in your service area, it has a drop down window that you can go through, and it'll give you a whole bunch of different languages that you use, but select English would be the one that you'd want to use. Your region, this is the zone where you are in the state. If you don't, that should self-populate, as you notice it did on this one. He's in Alabama Region 8. If you don't know what region you're in, again, contact the State Emergency Communications Committee or the State Broadcast Association, and they can tell you where that, what region you're actually in. But it should self-populate from where you entered it over the years. The next section down has to do with your where your transmitter is located, the latitude and longitude. These are actually will self-populate as well. And if you notice, they're in decimal form, not minutes, degrees, minutes, and seconds. If for some reason this is missing on yours and you have to enter it and you don't know how to change it from on your license, you will have it listed as degrees, minutes, and seconds. There's actually in this area down here, it says enter the latitude and longitude of your EAS participant's antenna. And if you don't, they're only accepted in decimal degrees, not degrees, minutes, and seconds. There's actually a site you can click on here, and it will bring you up to a little form where you can enter it in the minutes, degrees, minutes, and seconds, and it will convert it. But this should populate up since you've already done it in years past. Transmitter city, and that would be the town where your transmitter is located. This may or may not be where your studio is, but that's where the transmitter is located. The transmitter county, the state, and then the receiver location. What that's talking about is where is your EAS unit? Normally, obviously at the studio. So it won't be, and every once in a while, it may show up at the transmitter, depending on how you have your site organized. But in this case, it's at his studio, and his studio is located at 961 Pineville Road in Monroeville. The last part that you have to actually look at, and this is one reason they want you to do the Form 1 every year, because personnel changes at your station. So the contact people may have changed since the last time that you entered a Form 1. And obviously the last time you entered Form 1 was 2 years ago, since we didn't do one last year because of the pandemic. So these may change, and you can go in and edit it and change those if you will. Whoever's doing the filing, whoever's setting up the filing and all, and information about that person. Also, the filer's email address and a alternate email address. So you have to make sure that you have all that information on file. On the day of the test, they want to know who to contact with if they need to contact someone on the day of the test. And here again, it has information concerning who the person is, the phone number, contact, and the email and alternate email. And that's about all that you really have to fill out. So when you get down to the end, you simply click on, I certify that this form is true and accurate. Click on that, and you can save the draft, or if you would like to save and print it, which a lot of people like to do, you can click on save and generate a draft PDF, and then it will save that into your download folder, and you can go back and print it later on. It will have all this information in there that you actually submitted. Then when you click on submit Form 1, it will actually accept it. And in a few minutes after you have actually submitted it, you will actually get an email thanking you for filing Form 1, and then you're through. And that's all there is to it. But it's just a matter of going through and making sure that all the information in the information in Form 1 is correct. And if it's not, you can make some changes in that. So I hope that was sort of clear. Let's move over here. If you have any information concerning logging on or filling out the ETRS form, you can contact the FCC at this email address, etrss@fcc.gov, or you can call them at 1-877-480-3201. And they have some people there that are very familiar with the ETRS, and and logging on and all the information. But if you have any questions about the actual form, you can contact the chairman of the State Emergency Communications Committee in your state, or the State Broadcasters Association, or contact the FCC themselves. We thank you for watching this webinar on filling out Form 1 and some things that you need to do to get ready for the national test coming up on August the 11th. That's a Wednesday at 2:20 Eastern Daylight Time. And remember that filing date for Form 1 has to be in no later than July 6th. So we thank you for watching, and we'll join you again soon with another webinar.